What's up and welcome back. John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and we are going to talk about Primate. Oh my God, Becky. Look at that film. Subscribe so that we can continue talking about films like Primate here and their audio description. I've heard this guy narrate before, and I remember the last time that I heard him do a movie, um, I remarked about how he sounded like H. John Benjamin. So it's just like sort of a more like muted, um, trying to like he's trying to be like on the down low. Like if H. John Benjamin was like, I would love to do audio description, and then tried to like rein in his voice so that it didn't sound like Archer was narrating. It kind of sounds like Archer's narrating. So it's an interesting voice. I don't mind it on films like this, but they're Primates. It's a horror movie, and I'm sure you're sitting there thinking to yourself, but John, what kind of horror movie is it? Uh Horror. So I'm gonna tread into some spoilers, but not. I'm gonna try to avoid like heavy spoilers. So I will say, the film starts off right away with with the answer to the question of, so how gory is this film planning on being? um the film does not waste any time in killing somebody off. There's sort of an opening kill sequence like there is in a lot of horror movies. I suppose that gives it away in case you thought the person in the opening sequence was going to survive. You haven't you clearly are new to the horror like concept. I feel bad for you, because his death is brutal. Oh my God. I, I was like, oh my God. Just like over the top. Um, man. Uh, yeah, it's for a mainstream, um, studio horror movie. I was like, that's something right there. That's a death. So, and that's immediately raises the bar to a 10, just to let people know, like, yeah, so this is not weak sauce. This is not just a movie where people just get stabbed and then they run away. No, no. So after that, we flash back like 36 hours and we get introduced to everybody else who actually matters after the film has been like, hey, by the way, get ready because some shit's gonna go down. um and we see Lucy. Actually, well, we see some like news footage of like explaining how there's a chimpanzee, and it's a chimp movie. There's a killer chimp. um how there is a chimpanzee in its existence. uh and so um we're introduced to Lucy, who is flying back home to meet with her family. Her sister's gonna pick her up. Ellie. I forgot her sister's name. Her sister is like the least important of the characters. Um, so there's Lucy, Kate, and Hannah are sort of the three leads of the film. Lucy has two friends, Kate and Hannah, who come along with her, and they come home, and Hannah's never been here before. So Lucy, part of the reason the chimpanzee being here makes so much sense is because they brought in Troy Kotsur to play Adam, Lucy's father. And I'm going to just keep assuming it's Ellie. I totally forgot what her name was. That's played by Gia Hunter, who I also saw in a movie this year that I debated about whether or not to review, called The Containment, because it didn't have audio description. And I was like, I don't know about this. But now I'm thinking, well, she was in Primate. Maybe I can talk about that in the review. So, um, so Adam I mean, he's written novels, and he's going to be going away for a while, and he's been studying and working with, they have a chimp that walks around the house, Ben. And I'm sure in better days, Ben was pretty chill. I mean, we see pictures of Ben with like Lucy as a baby and stuff like that. So, um, it's Ben's been a part of this family for a while, part of a study that her mom brought him home because she was trying to work on communicating with, she was a linguistics professor working on communicating with chimps through sign language. So Ben knows some sign language and can communicate, well, actually does know sign language and can communicate through sign language, and also has a tablet where he can kind of voice his opinions. So he knows how to work his tablet, which creates for some interesting moments throughout the film where he voices his opinion, you know, Ben hungry, you know, like that kind of thing. So, there's also a character called Nick, who is like the lone guy. And I'm super unclear as to what exactly Nick does, but apparently he's been around for a while because at some point he refers to Lucy as like his little sister. And just seems to, it's weird because like Lucy introduces Nick to Adam and is like, Nick's gonna stay here to protect us. And Adam just like looked at that comment and was like, there was no response to that. It was like, protect you from what at this point in the movie? Like, there are like four girls and your dad in this house. What is Nick gonna protect you from? But it's also sort of established that Nick knows what's going on, and like he's been here before, and he's not unfamiliar to Ben. So I did not understand the rhythm or what they were trying to do with Nick's character, or how long he's known the family, or what, you know, could not pick up on what they were putting down with this character. Like, does he know? Is Adam chill with him? The character development, so weird in this movie sometimes. So it doesn't really need to happen. They're just introducing people to be killed off, so it's whatever. Um, but I would say that's your core group. There are some other characters that are introduced. The girls met some bros, bruh, bruh, like those kind of people at the airport who were hot, and also they're in Hawaii to party. It's in Hawaii. Lucy lives there. Her dad has a huge house, which I'm sure is hard to accomplish in Hawaii. Like you have to make some bank, not to not just to live in Hawaii, but to also have a giant home in Hawaii. Um, and they have like this enclosure for Ben. He does have a cage to be in, but so he's really excited to see Lucy. Ben is excited to see Lucy, and knows Kate, but is weird around Hannah, and has moments where like it gets kind of creepy. And Adam just writes it off as being like he's weird around strangers. So that's why when you see him with Nick and Kate, like they're not strangers to him, but like Hannah's the stranger here of the whole core group. Um, so so Adam's gonna leave to go on a, yeah, I don't think he goes on a book tour. He just goes somewhere to get a book signed because it's in Hawaii, right? So if you go anywhere for a book tour, it's going to take like a 10-hour flight to get you to get you somewhere. But so and he comes back at the end of the movie too quickly for me to suggest that he's not just like in the city. He's not just like down in, I don't know, Honolulu or wherever, whichever island they're on. So, but they are kind of in a remote area of Hawaii, which makes it a lot easier for them because then, like, they're like running to the neighbor's house or anything like that. So, Adam notices that Ben looks a little rough after he has this weird encounter with Hannah, and takes him back into the enclosure. He notices that there's a dead animal in Ben's enclosure, and Ben's been bitten. And the film starts off, by the way, with this explanation of hydrophobia, and what it is, and how it's like commonly referred to as rabies. And I'm like, oh, okay. Uh, so you're already putting things together at this point. You should be. Um, so yes, there was a dead animal, and obviously Ben got bitten by whatever it is, and Adam takes the dead animal carcass, and he's weird about it first, but creeps out his kids by putting it on the table, like, anyone want breakfast? Um, but ends up sending it into the lab to be confirmed, to see, just to check. He doesn't think there's anything about it, because apparently rabies doesn't exist in Hawaii. The film never really explains how rabies got here to Hawaii, like how this ever happened, how a mongoose got rabies to begin with. Like, that's not a thing that's ever really explained. It just is. So it's one of those things where it's like, life finds a way. Jurassic Park. Which incidentally also shot in Hawaii. So maybe Jurassic Park is the reason for rabies in Hawaii. There you go. Think about that. Think about them apples. Life found a way to bring rabies to Hawaii. And once Adam leaves, that's sort of when things hit the fan. That's when we catch up to the 36 hours, and the opening kill sequence comes full circle, and Ben is, well, ape shit. Quite literally, because he's an ape. So from that point on, that's when you start wondering, okay, so who gets killed when, throughout the course of the movie, and thinking about, all right, who's gonna make it, who's not, what's up with the situation. So you have the 4 girls and Nick, who are in the house, who are the primary cast, because Adam is going to be gone, spoiler, but he's going to be gone for like most of the midsection of the movie. He's in the beginning and the end, like he comes back. So basically it's the young cast who has to deal with Ben, and how they deal with Ben, how the choices that they make. It's kind of interesting. There's a big thing here with the pool. By the way, if you've ever wanted to see a movie that takes place in a pool, Primate is your movie. So I know you weren't expecting that. You were probably like, oh, they're going to jump around the house, right? And it's just going to be them like running and hiding and play hide and seek with Ben. No, they have a pool. And as it turns out, Ben can't swim. So even with rabies, like, he's smart enough to not jump into the pool knowing he can't swim. So that's the one trait they didn't give him, was the ability to swim. Now he can go pretty much damn near anywhere else. I mean, he can climb on things, he can get near the pool, but basically they try, in order to survive, the ones who are surviving always try to like float in the middle of the pool, so that way Ben can't reach them, he can't get to them, and he's not going to jump in there because he can't swim, knowing he would die. So he's got a lot of thinking going on with rabies in his brain, which, debatable. So yeah, and you're just gonna watch people slowly, one by one, get killed off. And it is kind of slow because there's really only 5 people here, and there's like a 90-minute movie, and they already kind of set the bar really high with the opening kill sequence. So it takes a while for the first one of those 5 to be killed off. One of them does get attacked, but it's not fatal. It's just probably, I'm sure, looked like a gnarly wound. Although that same person is running later in the film, so I question. Oh, that's the other thing too, is sometimes people sustain injuries and they're just like, you're like, how are you still going, Terminator? There's one character that gets beaten a lot by Ben and just keeps getting up and, Sarah Connoring her way through life, and or Ripley, Ellen Ripley, whatever, pick a strong female lead. She's just like, I'm still fine. So, um, yeah, that happens. Pretty much everybody sustains injuries. I would say, yeah, pretty much everybody sustains some sort of like injury and then keeps going. So, yeah, they need to get their phones, but unfortunately, when this whole thing happened, they weren't really planning to get their phones. So, it's pretty crazy. It's kind of fun. The deaths are kind of brutal. The first death is the goriest and the most brutal. The second goriest death um, is not one of the main five. I don't want to spoil that, but there are other characters that come into the film, and I would say that one of the sort of random kill victims ends up being the second craziest death, and also probably for people who are into uh, horror comedy. I suppose that's the one that takes closest because of the way that Ben reacts to it. Um, that one was pretty gnarly. um, Otherwise, but sadly, the character that I like the most, I would say, of the main cast, probably got the most brutal death. The character that I was like, please let them survive. The one where I was like, of these five, the one I would like to live is blank. Ended up getting the worst death. So, um, other than that, yeah, some people are going to survive this movie. I do want to go ahead, like, grade it and everything. The audio description is fantastic because it describes the violence and gore pretty well. There's a scene with Ben where he's looking into a closet that has so much tension behind it, and I thought the audio description there was fantastic. This is great audio description. I just, yeah, excellent stuff, good stuff. Um, no problems. Primate is exactly the kind of film that would open earlier in the year. It's not going to redefine horror. However, it's a fun, schlocky horror movie for people who need gore in their life. If you need gore in your horror movies, this is it for you. Everybody has something brutal. Even the death that shouldn't have had one, still they find a way to make sure that when someone falls, their head like smashes on a rock. Gotta be a rock there. Can't just like fall and splat. I don't know. Nope, gotta hit that rock. So yeah, every death in here is gory to some extent. It's just some are more than others. There isn't one death here where it's just like so and so got stabbed or so and so tripped and fell and broke their neck and then that's it. Nope. No one no one has a simple death. Everybody's death is extremely elaborate and brutal and yeah, so um and there are plenty of them. And there's a lot of tension in between, a lot of ingenuity with the survivors trying to figure out how they can get out or how they can call for help or can they call for help or where's Ben? I have problems with the film. There is, so, in case you're like, why isn't your score like 10 out of 10? Well, it shows them, so they end up floating at one point. One of them is injured and Lucy has to get out, and there's this big sequence where she's getting like a little floaty raft thing, so like with the injured person on the floaty raft, and then you see them later on and the survivors have all slept simultaneously on the raft. And I'm like, who the fuck in this situation would all of you sleep simultaneously? No one's keeping an eye on Ben. Like, you, there are four of you still visible. Why? Why isn't anyone looking? How did this happen? How did this occur? Why are you all asleep? This is the most terrifying situation you've ever been in your life, and you all just took a nap in the pool. Like, what? So yeah, sometimes the film makes these like choices where I'm just like, no, I can't go there with you. I would love to go there with you, but I can't. Um, I love some of the specificity too with like there's one character who when they're running, even the audio description clocks the fact that, and this is one of the reasons why I was like, man, this character's a badass. I want this character to survive. Um, is that they sort of, when they're running at one point in the film, they deftly manage to maneuver around the glass. And then later on, a different character is going to step in the glass. So it's interesting to see how different characters, how you're like, girl, please, like the other one got around it. What's your problem? Like, why are you? So yeah, like choices and those are the kind. Anyway, so yeah, there are very different, various different things about why the film has issues and problems and leaps that it makes with some of the characters. I should do a spoiler review that way I can just say everything I want to say without like leading into it. This is what I mean by medium spoilers. Like I'm hinting at things, but I'm not really saying what they are. And I also hated the 911 operator in this. She was so useless. So useless. What a useless 911 operator. Um, so Primate. I will remember this film at the end of the year. I'm gonna give it like a 7.8 out of 10. I think it's fun. It's not super serious. You know, I know we're giving horror movies Academy Award nominations now. Nobody's gonna be talking about Primate. I I love the fact that Troy Kotsur is the biggest name here. I looked at some of the other names and I don't really recognize or know them. The guy that plays Nick has apparently never been in a movie before. I so I don't, but he kind of acts like it too. So and the others have been in like things where it's like, did I see that? Have I seen them do anything meaningful? So yeah, it just, but yeah, Troy is by far the biggest name in this film. So, is there anything I wanted to say specifically now that I have given you the grade at the end of the review? You could have clicked out by now. What did I want to say specifically at the end of this thing in terms of like a spoilery type of thing? I feel like there was something that I was going to say where I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to give up and surrender to Primate and just fine, whatever. But, oh, I remember. So this is, I would say, a huge spoiler. So bye if you want. So the messaging here, I think, is probably that chimps are bad to own and the families who do are crazy. I didn't like the fact that the only surviving members are the family members. Like, I feel like it should have been, like, I would have changed that and had uh non-family member survive. Like I think the survivor should have been Hannah or Kate. Like if there were survivors in this movie, it should have been Hannah or Kate, not the other way around. Instead, it's like Adam and his daughters, and it's just a bit much because like those characters don't make the best decisions. The Adam is probably the more useful character, but he's also gone for like most of the movies. So you're not very invested in whether or not he lives or dies, unless you're just like a huge Troy Kotsur fan. So the fact that the family is what lives and that everybody else dies is just really, it kind of sucked. I was like, wait a minute, those are the characters I like the least. Ellie, or whatever her name is, spends most of the time floating on a raft. She doesn't really do anything in this film. Lucy is not great with life choices. Um, so she's not really, in terms of a strong female lead, I don't think she's the strongest female lead in here. I think her friends are stronger than she is. I think she's the weakest of the three girls. I think her friends, Kate and Hannah, are stronger than she is. She's very naive in thinking about what she can still convince Ben to do, with her like connection and stuff. And I think she should have been taught a lesson earlier in the film, but she's not really. She does get pummeled a lot by Ben, but no. So yeah, that would be the thing that I didn't like, was the fact that they the family is what lives. Anyway, and they don't really dive into the fact that Ellie has rabies now. Like, that seems to be a thing that they, like, if anything, because her health, like, deteriorates at the beginning, and then she gets better. I was actually kind of wondering, there's a point in the film where they start pulling Ben into the pool, and I was like, okay, so they're gonna kill Ben because and then it's gonna turn out, then we're gonna have a twist where Ellie loses her mind because she has rabies, and we're gonna see what it's like to have a human on rabies, and then she's gonna turn into a monster, start killing people. So no. As a matter of fact, she seems pretty normal by the end. She's just like a little sick. But I mean, she actually gets better. She's the one that's able to run later on after she gets half of her leg ripped off. But whatever. Like, so there's some stuff in here. There's some reasons why it's like a 7.8 out of 10. But I need to put all that at the end so that it doesn't feel like it's a massive spoiler. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.